Real quick, before we start this podcast episode, I just want to say thank you for tuning into the Marc Colcer podcast. I know you've got a million things that you could be doing right now, and the fact that you're taking time out of your day to watch this podcast episode truly means the world to me, and I just want to say thank you for that. If you'd like to continue to support the podcast, right below this video, if you could hit the subscribe button, and then, hey, if you got some more time and you want to hit the download button, the comment button, the like button, the share button, any of those buttons, it's greatly, greatly appreciated. It helps for other people to find out about the podcast, and it helps for you to be notified about future episodes. So if you guys could take a quick second, hit the subscribe button, I would really appreciate that. Outside of that, this episode and every other episode is brought to you guys by Roast Umber Coffee. As some of you guys know, I co-founded Roast Umber Coffee, and we have the greatest farmers in Guatemala and Honduras and the greatest roaster in Grand Rapids, Michigan, all to bring you guys the greatest cup of coffee possible. So if you'd like to try it out, go to our website, use the coupon code MARC30, and you're going to get 30% off your coffee. Now on to the episode. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Welcome to the Marc Colcer podcast. That's the fun part about, being in the space that we're in right now is that like we're literally writing the history of it, right? And I think that's anytime you can say like, hey, because it's not like anybody can say, oh, I've been in NFTs for 10 years, right? Yeah. Like that doesn't exist. There hasn't been NFTs for 10 years. So, for all of us, like you consider somebody like experienced in the space that they've been here for over a year, right? Yeah. And so that's so much of like a nothing burger in the real life. And so
when I hear people say, I go all the way back to 2021, I'm like, stop my beating heart. But I'm one of those too. You know what I mean? So I get it, and plus, as we all know, in the Web3 space, an hour is a day is a week is a month is a year.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it just moves so quick that it's being here for 3 years is like being here for 30. That's how it feels.
100%.
Seriously.
100%. Yeah. With the fucking anxiety that the space gives you from time to time, the ups and downs and everything.
No age like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So to start off this podcast, so I just finished up obviously doing an awesome podcast with Amber. So if you guys haven't watched that yet, you guys should definitely go and give that a view. But now we brought Dan on, and so we're going to be talking about you guys' project 51 Draco. But before we get started, Dan, can you tell me give me a little bit of your background? So before getting into NFTs, what were you doing with your life?
Yeah, so I wasn't well off as a kid. As I tiptoed out of high school, I realized I had a real knack for mathematics. So I went and got my Series 7, Series 24, and 63. I became a stockbroker, worked my way up from boutique firms to major wirehouses. It got to the point where I would do 6 months worth of research on what I thought was the best stock, bond, or mutual fund, but all it took was, a firecracker to go off in the Middle East and the whole market would tank. So, it was tough, being subject to the volatility of global events rather than economic indicators. So I pivoted into venture capital, which, is great because you can fund projects you can get behind and not worry about the day-to-day volatility of the market. Shortly after that, I moved to LA. This is back when I was in the Miami area. I moved here about 15 years ago. And we were connected to something called the StartX Fund out of Stanford, which is a tech incubator. And I found myself going up there and looking for projects to raise capital for. At the time, I had a micro venture capital company. And what I found was these people were getting ungodly offers from folks on Sand Hill Drive, like Sequoia Capital and Menlo Ventures and what have you. And this is technology I could personally write in the matter of 8 weeks. By the way, I started writing software when I was like 13 years old, like 10, but real software when I was 13. I could write basically every language. So I thought to myself, man, I'm on the wrong side of this. Instead of finding good tech and investing in it, I'm going to go back to writing software because I never really stopped anyway, right? I would just write things out of necessity for the businesses that I had. And I got back into tech. I saw the antiquated sector that was healthcare, a lot of money, but it was very antiquated. Launched several projects in the cancer space and other spaces. Some of my software solutions are in as many as 56 countries currently, hospitals nationwide. Amber has been my friend forever. She really started to bring me the idea of crypto many years ago, and me being a traditionalist when it comes to economics and things like that, I thought it was exactly what a lot of people think it is. I thought it was vaporware for a long time, and I missed out on generational wealth. That's really what's so exciting about Web3 is, I was too young for the .com boom. I was too dumb for the Bitcoin boom. I'll be damned if I'm going to miss this Web3 evolutionary step that we're all about to take. So years of missing the boat on that and her sitting on the sidelines smiling, or me sitting on the sidelines while she was involved with some things that made some money. I decided to get into it. Shortly after that, I was introduced to NFTs, and the rest is history. I fell in love with it.
Now he's been addicted.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm way more of a DJ than she ever imagined I was going to. I told her, I said when I bought my first one, I was like,
this is going to be
you
bad.
have no idea what you've done to me.
Yeah.
I'm stuck here
like
forever.
crack, isn't it?
And it's like crack. And another terrible thing for a guy like me, I write software 24/7. I don't sleep a whole lot. And thankfully, in the past for me, your traditional markets close at 4:30 Eastern Standard.
This
right?
shit's open 24/7.
This shit, if I find the itch at 2 a.m., I can scratch the itch, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So before I know it, I had a fucking portfolio chock full of rugs, and I haven't looked back ever since. Yeah, so that's a little bit about myself.
There we go. No, I love that. One hell of a background. Like I always, anybody who codes, I have massive respect for because I think podcast editing is difficult. So coding is a whole nother level of shit. So, no, a lot of respect for that. And no, it's always cool to me to hear how people kind of got into the things that they got into. And so I want to hear a little bit, Amber and I just dove into kind of what her thoughts were on NFTs when she first got in. But for you, what was your experience like when you first got in outside of like the degenerate aspect of it and everything like that? Like, what were your thoughts on the space overall when you first dove in?
My thoughts overall, obviously there was, we all have, our finger on the pulse of greed, right? So I was like, oh my goodness, there's some money to be made here, and I'm really into it. But shortly after, what I realized, what was the most interesting thing for me was if I didn't know how much money had been exchanged for NFTs, and I looked at what had been built as a result of the money that's been exchanged for NFTs. Let me rephrase that. If I didn't know the money that was exchanged for NFTs and I saw what was built, I would probably think it was in the millions because I haven't seen anything yet that really blows me. Now, granted, there's a ton of soul casinos that are highly addictive and flips and raffles, and people have done phenomenal things. So this isn't a shot at anybody in particular. Obviously, I respect everybody. I love everybody. They probably own your NFT and whether I like to admit it or not. But I just think that there's been so much liquidity extrapolated from the Web3 community in exchange for NFTs. And I just don't see a whole lot that has come out of the other side of that. And one of the core, philosophies of 51 Draco, DRACO, do right and create opportunity. We're a tech incubator at our core. And what we want to do is we want to bring practical products to Web3. One of our first products is a payroll system. I think all great things are built out of necessity. As a result of tiptoeing into this space, I found myself working with people that wanted to be paid in cryptocurrency, right? And I found myself, let's say that I was paying somebody $1,000 a week every Friday. If they wanted to be paid in Sol or ETH or what have you, I'd have to do the math, right? $1,000 divided by the token, this, that, the other. I'd have to buy it, transfer it, and it became a little bit of a pain in the ass. I'm used to Gusto and ADT and things like that taking care of our stuff for us. So the first thing I created was what we call Draco Pago, which is the Gusto, some people call it Gusto, the payroll service for Web3. And what it does essentially is you put in your master wallet, whether it be an Ethereum-based wallet or Phantom or MetaMask or what have you, depending on the currency that's underlying. You put in the wallets of your payroll recipients, the nicknames for each one of them. You put in the frequency, how often they're going to be paid, whether it's weekly, twice a month, quarterly, whatever the case may be. The amount in USD, and when the trigger occurs, when the day occurs, it does the conversion for you, and it delivers that to their wallet. There's a backend with all of the ledgers, the running, everything you need for accounting, if you care about that piece. So that was something that we built literally because we didn't want to spend time on that shit. You know what I mean? We want to build. We want to do great things. And as I started to talk to other people, they were like, hey, I'd love to use that too. I'd love to use that. So there you have the first product that was born. And what we came to learn was Web3. So when the world went from Web 1 to Web 2, there was all this new opportunity. I look at Web 2 to Web 3 the same way. You have all the things that we've all used in Web 2 that don't apply anymore to Web3. They don't live on the blockchain. They almost render themselves useless, especially if the large onboarding happens that we all do see on the quasi-near horizon, right? So you have this open landscape of all these new products that can be built, but everybody instead is, creating monkey JPEGs and Sol casinos and you know what I mean? So phenomenal. Keep doing your thing, Slick. You know what I mean? We're going to do what we do over here. We want to make practical products that can be used by the everyman in the Web3 space, and we want to be the first to market, and that's really our core competency. That's what we want to do best. Of course, technology is not everything. You have to have decent art or great art, and that was really the biggest challenge. We have never had a problem developing. I grabbed the hold of writing into the blockchain very quickly. It's not some a major feat, and any real developer will tell you that, regardless of, you know, how people want to exaggerate the situation. The real challenge, there's 2 challenges. Amber's great at, I feel rude because I can't look on, but she doesn't care.
No, like marketing. So obviously social media is my background. Right. So that was like my place in, you know, okay, we need to do X, Y, and Z. We need to be on social platforms. I need to like build this community and I want to connect with people. And I explained to him, I'm like, community is very big in this space. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's cool to buy art and this and that, make, you know, projects and things like that. But the thing that really keeps things afloat or decides if it's going to be a good project or, you know, a bad project is the community.
That's absolutely correct. And she's been great at that, nurturing the community and getting it behind us. There was 2 things that we found challenging. That was the community, which she's worked her butt off. I don't know if you follow her on Twitter.
It's been trial and error, though.
Yeah. And by the way, when I say I don't care, I mean, I know you don't care that much about you. You know,
I know.
You obviously don't care about the project. And then secondly, the art, man. The art's been such a challenge. You know, we know a ton of phenomenal artists, mostly are tattoo artists. You know, I got plenty all over me, and all of our friends do. But
you're telling me those aren't henna?
What we learned was, man, NFT art, what's interesting about NFT art is when you first look at it, you're like, that's dog shit. And then once you get into the community, it's like the only art you like. You fall in love with it. So we found ourselves bringing it to good artists, friends of mine, like tattoo artists and stuff like that. They're like, oh, I hate the art. And I'm like, but can you do it? And they're like, yeah, I could easily knock that out. No, they can't.
Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. Finding new artists, changing things. I mean, and it will be fun when I finally do this like video of like what we started with and our idea in the beginning and how it transformed into what we have now.
It was nasty.
So different.
Well, and so there's a few things that were brought up in the first part of this. So you talked about when you first came in, kind of seeing these projects and like a lot of them getting all this money, but then not really like doing anything with it, right? And so to me, when I first started with it, I remember asking myself at one point, like, okay, so if this project makes like 5 or 6 million, right? Is there a social contract with everybody as to like what they have to do with that, right? And I was like, not really. Like at the time, like, no, there really wasn't. Like you got to choose what you wanted to do with that. So you were hoping that when you minted a project that founder didn't go and buy 3, Lamborghinis, a fucking house, and like, and then rug the project. Like you were hoping that, but at the time you were relying off of like, I'm hoping this person's not a piece of shit, right?
Absolutely.
And so now we're seeing like, and we were talking about this in the first podcast that we did, that like in the space that we're in now, there's a good chance that when you mint, you don't even make close to $1 million. And so there really isn't, after you pay taxes, after you like put together a game plan of like where you're utilizing those funds and things like that, you're not even really rich when you get done with it. And so in order for you to make it rich, you got to build a successful project, right?
Correct, yeah.
And so there's a different like element to what we expect now. And back then it was like everybody was minting everything because there was like the FOMO of like, oh, I missed out on this one project. It mooned, like now I got to get this next. Now we're in a point where people really need like content like this. They want to get to know you guys. They want to know what is your background. Like, do you have like when you're talking about building like the gusto of Web3, like, do you even have that ability, right?
Yeah.
Like, and do you know then like what somebody's going to need, in order for that to be, an application that they're going to utilize all the time? And then is this software as a service? Can they utilize the software if they don't own the NFT? And then, how does that benefit the holders and yada, yada, yada? We now have all of these questions that at the beginning people weren't asking, right? Like, because at the time, it was like, you were like, no, I'm buying this JPEG and I'm just hoping it goes up.
No one really cared.
Bull versus bear, too,
right? Yeah, 100%.
They're like, it's a scratch-off ticket. Now, people have been beaten so bad, they're like, no. I'm holding you accountable. I want to know every single plan. To answer one of those questions, quickly, so as far as our NFT holders are concerned, they're going to share on a pro rata per share basis of a portion of the revenue that these products spin out. So, and that's compliant. We have the right attorneys. So for us, there's this idea of IP, and I love the idea of having being an NFT holder of a project that goes out and makes a cartoon of that project, and maybe that'll bring some popularity to that NFT collection, which will raise the floor price, and I'll be able to liquidate at a higher price. That all sounds good in theory or on paper. We want to bring true value. So we're a tech incubator that are building these products that should become revenue rich, and we will be sharing a pro rata per share basis. In the simplest terms, the more of the NFTs you hold, the more of that revenue we're going to share with you. And that's our goal as a whole, because that's what we're used to in traditional markets. When I had a venture capital company, we'd raise capital for a project and the investors were partners in the project. A shareholder, basically the same thing to a certain extent. That was one of the biggest interesting ambiguities about the NFT space, to come full circle to what you just said, is that it's not backed by anything really. It's just backed by the full faith and confidence of the guy producing the JPEG, and God willing, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So my next question is for you, Amber, then. So when you guys are building out something like this, the downside of building out software is that it takes a minute, right? And so when you're building true utility takes a second. So during that, you have to basically have a community that's ironclad, that's going to give you that time to build, right? Because I think one of the, we talked about this, I think, before we started recording, but like the space moves so damn quick, right? So what happens in a month here, it feels like 10 years, right? Yeah. And so a project can go from like mooning to shit overnight, right? You could wake up and you're like, wait, we peaked at that price? Like, when the hell did that happen, right? And so, you can make a lot and lose a lot very quick. And so during that time, when you're building out something, your community has to be ironclad to really give you that time to build. And also because there's certain things that you're going to build that don't work, right? Sure. Like I remember, so I was an OG mentor of D-Gods, and most people know D-Gods. And like that project at the beginning, it was like they would put out something and it failed.
It was tumultuous.
Almost everything failed. And it was like, they built this function at one point that was like a blog, and you could have like writers on there and you could tip the writers and stuff like that. It's a cool concept, just nobody used it. So it wasn't something where, like, I remember the first person who got a tip and we were like, oh, that's kind of cool. But like, that was really it. There wasn't really, it's not like all of a sudden we started to see all these like Web3 writers and stuff like that. Yeah. It just didn't really do anything. But the community, once again, supported the team and allowed them to have that time to build, right? Yeah. And so now I think they've done a lot of really cool shit, and they've gamified things in certain ways, and they've maintained the project relevancy, which is really difficult to do. People can talk all day, every day about like building this, building that. Building relevancy is to me just as difficult, if not more. Yeah. And so for you guys, so I want to hear, Amber, what is your strategy on like during the times when he's building out the tech aspect of something? How do you want to make sure that you guys are maintaining the community and maintaining the belief in you guys and like giving you the necessary time to build all these things?
Yeah, I think transparency with our community is really, really important. Being honest, like, hey, we're doing this, this, and this. We have people that ask certain questions, and I always want to give them the best answer that I have available. And even having some of like the people in our community come now on our team and giving us feedback has been something for me has been huge, because I may think something is amazing, but I'm a little biased, right? We've made this from, it's our baby, right? So having somebody that's coming on from the outside give us feedback, I'm like, oh shit, they don't like this. Oh, they really got excited about this. I didn't really get excited about this until they did. And then, so just involving them and letting them have a voice.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is I love that you said that, because I think that the thing that we forget a lot of times is when you're talking about like Web 2 businesses, you don't really have a way to talk directly with your consumers, right? Like it's a lot more difficult to directly get in talks with them, right? But with what we're doing, you can legitimately go into Discord, and at any one point in time, you can talk to somebody who's got a fat bag of whatever you're putting out there, right? Yeah. And so that to me means that like when somebody, if somebody cusses you out and is like, what the fuck are you guys doing? We haven't gotten an update, yada, yada, yada. That to me means you care, right? Because you care enough to cuss me out. If you care enough to cuss me out, you gotta give a shit about what we're doing. Right?
Web 2 pays so much for census and things like that. You know what I mean? We get it free. Right. So don't not listen to it. Right. This is a resource. It's huge.
You can end up in a voice chat with these people and talk to them about like, hey, why do you feel the way that you feel? And like, because the biggest thing, and this is the difference I think between where we were at in the space and where we're at now, is that now we kind of personalize a lot of these projects, right? Like being able to have you guys sitting on my couch, getting to know both of you. I didn't know either of you before today, right? Like Amber and I have chatted a little bit, but not a ton, but like being able to, share life stories and get to know each other and like all of those sorts of things is how we, really build build the space because we get to know the people who are behind these projects and behind these Twitter accounts and things like that, right? And and once again, all of a sudden now you've got this massive amount of people that can give you feedback, because in order for us to get Web3 to like where we want it to be, we got to build shit that people actually need, right? And that's going to come from having these legitimate conversations where we can, talk with people and figure out like, what is it that you truly need and how can we make your life easier?
100%.
I go back to the reason why we use everything is because it makes our life better, right? Like, and if it's not making our life better, what's the point?
Don't waste your time.
Right. And so when you think about like your phone and the apps that you use, almost all of them that you use make your life better in some way, right? Of
course.
And then when you discover something that like last month I had some personal shit going on, I was struggling to sleep, and somebody was like, you should try out Calmly. They do these like bedtime stories. I was like, oh my God, I'm back to I'm 4 years old again. And I was like, but fuck it, we're gonna try it out, bedtime stories. So tried it out, worked beautifully, right? Wow. Saw somebody tweet the other day,
write that down.
Try that. Somebody was like, I'm struggling to sleep, and I was like, I got you, Calmly, download it. I was like, and it's the word of mouth because it made my life better, right? It made my life easier, So those are the things that like when you truly build something that makes somebody's life better, they're going to talk about it. And so at 51 Draco, from a like, hey, we're getting a portion of the revenue that's coming in. It's making my life better in that way. Hey, the software that they're making is, making this better. They also have these talks every week where we get to suggest ideas, and like that's making my life better. The art is something that I think is really cool. That's making my life better.
Right.
The sweatshirt that you're rocking, like it's, like it's something I can rock all the time. Cool, it's making my life better.
Right.
The the community is something that like, the other day I was talking about something going on in my life and like they reached out to me and whatever, it's making my life better, right? The floor price keeps going up. It's making my life better, right? So all of it comes down to that.
Yeah. And we do also have the Draco coin, which is an SPL token. There's not a liquidity pool. It's to incentivize our holders to do things like Twitter raids and miscellaneous things, and they can spend that at the Club 51, our Draco store, and you can spend those things on mutant apes, other great NFTs, from OK Bears, the D-Gods, the mutant apes, and what have you. And what's great about that is a lot of these, look, the age range in Web3 is unlike anything I've ever seen, right? So some of these people cannot fathom being able to purchase a mutant or a D-God or even, something smaller than that, right, in terms of floor price. So we give them the ability to earn Draco coin by carrying out tasks that you do for free as long as you have the time. And they can take that coin, they can go to our store, and they can swap that coin with one of these NFTs or merch or whitelists or, what have you. So to come back full circle, they're all great answers, but that's just to add to it. That's another thing that should keep them busy while we are building out these other products. Their ability to earn the token and swap them, and i.e. you're making money because you don't have to keep that mutant. You can go floor it, and you just made 10, 15, 20,000 depending on the floor price for literally just doing Twitter raids. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there you have it. That's kind of the plan to keep them at bay while we are building. And the good news is we're not using the mint funds to build the first couple projects. They're done. Yeah. They're in the can. So it's not this chicken and the egg type thing where it's like, okay, now we have the hurry up and wait, right? That's how NFT is. Hurry up and give me your money. Now wait. We have to build, guys. It's going to take a year or two or 3 or 4, maybe ever. You know what I mean? We're ready to go right out of the gate. So, there's a plus there as well.
Yeah, because that's not a common thing in this space.
No.
So I want to hear from each of you guys, and we'll start with Amber, and then we'll go to you, Dan. But Amber, so what do you view like yourself as a founder? What do you view as like your role? What is a perfect founder to you, and like how do you want to be utilized in the community?
I mean, I know we've kind of talked about this earlier in my podcast. I want to be able to bring innovation and change to Web3 and really make an impact, because we're still in that baby stage of like Web3. So to be able to build now and to give impact, and for me to bring women into the space and like educate women, and this is kind of going to be the vehicle for me to get there. And also being a woman in the space, I have to kind of show up in a different way.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important for me to do things the right way and showcase myself the right way, because I'm up against all these guys. So, I mean, just moving forward in this space is just kind of doing things the right way, always having like the best intention in everything that I do.
So bonus question on top of that. So when you're talking with, or if you're looking at like another NFT project, if you're going to buy something or whatever, what do you want that founder, like what do you consider a good founder?
Honestly, transparency. Like be honest with what is coming with this. You know, what's after mint day? Like what's the plan? What's the utility? And don't give like bullshit run around answers. Like, you know, if I'm investing, you know, some of these NFTs are expensive, you know, 15,000 for you and I or someone else, maybe to me is not a lot, but to someone else, it is a lot. So depending on obviously the price range, but be honest. Like there's no, like rugs really piss me off because it's just like, it's just, there's no need for it. And it gives also the space such a bad name. And then the people that are actually doing things, we have to work harder to just be like, this is not, I'm giving you utility. I'm giving you this. I'm, you know, to prove ourselves when people come on and into the space and they're like, I'm just going to make this and then rug everybody and they just took your money.
Yeah.
Right.
So
if you're a PFP, just be a PFP. If you're utility, be utility, but really be utility. You know what I mean? Just be transparent from the jump and, you know, there's be
vocal as a founder, you know, don't just sit there and be silent. You know, go on spaces, be active in the community, talk to other founders. Like that's what I've been doing, like getting my name out there, you know, meeting other founders, asking them questions like, look, you've been in the space a year. What were some things that you found difficult? Because I find X, Y, and Z super difficult. Like, how did you get past this, you know, hurdle? So kind of coming together as a whole community, even founders, like, it's not competition. There's enough for everyone. You know what I mean? Right. Like coming together and saying, what can we do to make this space easier, better for everyone? Yeah.
I mean, and I think too, that goes back to our first podcast episode when we were talking about vulnerability, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you're vulnerable, I think for the first part of the NFT space, I feel like a lot of it was like just showing like, oh, well, look how we're killing it. We're killing it. Right. And to me, I think there's something powerful about being like, hey, you know what? We fucked up. Like hand up, something we did didn't work, right? And like, here's what we tried, here's why it didn't work, and here's what we learned from it, right? And so to me, it's like, I don't need you to tell me how great you are. You know what? If your floor price is booming, I know how great you are, right? Yeah. But like, if you try something and it doesn't work or it negatively affects your community or whatever, just hand up, my bad, and here's what we learned from that, right? And I think that's something that in life in general, outside of the NFT space, just life in general, when somebody has the ability to be like, whether you're in a relationship with somebody, friendship with somebody, coworkers with somebody, when somebody's just like, hey, hand up, I fucked up, right? Everybody goes, hey,
show respect.
Yeah, right. Like respect. That it takes a lot of humility to say, I messed up, here's what I learned from this. And you know, and I'm not talking about like, I think a lot of people in the space, it's not like they have malicious intent when they fuck up. A lot of times I think people are like, well, we're building something people are actually going to like, right? And then they build it and they put it out and maybe the feedback is like, actually, this isn't it, right? Like, or it's not that great of a product or whatever, right? And so it takes humility to be like, you know what? Okay, hey, we're taking your feedback. We're adjusting from that. We're learning what you guys need in order for you to believe in us, right? Because that is, to me, that is the number one thing of like, when I have an NFT listed, that means I don't believe in you. Like that is my way of saying that I don't believe in that founder. If I've got your NFT listed, like any founder listening to this, if I got your shit listed, it's because I don't believe in you. And so make me regret listing it. Like make me feel like when I go to bed at night, I don't need to worry about that project, right? Yeah. And I think that is one of the most powerful things that if you have the ability to like with like DeGods and stuff like that, or with my Clanosaurs or with my, you know, whatever, like there's so many projects where I'm like, I'm not selling it because I believe that they have the ability to figure this out. They have the ability to figure out what we need in order for this project to succeed. Liberty Square, stuff like that. So I have mine staking, or if they don't have staking, I just don't list them. And it's because I don't want to wake up where somebody bought that and now I'm pissed that I lost that, right? Yeah. So, you know, it goes back to
in and I'm like, I'm shooting myself in the foot.
She's done that many. Recently, she had a few things listed that went. And I was like,
I told him my pudgy.
Yeah. I mean, I did a podcast with the founders of Oogie, which is a Solana project that hasn't come out yet. But they were talking. We were at lunch before the podcast, and one of the guys was like, "Yeah, I sold my DeGod, and then I had such anxiety the whole day about like selling my DGOD. And he's like, the floor price went up like 80 SOL that day. Yeah. So he's like, so I bought back in at 100 SOL higher than where I sold mine. And I was like, see, that is a powerful feeling, right? Yeah. They were able to create so much anxiety for him that he bought right back in. That's the greatest.
No matter what the price, he had to, that's how I felt.
And that is something where if you then create that sort of, feeling for your community where they're like, yo, whatever I do, I can't sell my 51 Draco. No matter what's going on, if I got personal shit going on, I need the money, I'm going to sell everything else before I sell 51 Draco, right?
Right.
That is, so how do you, so Dan, I want to then ask you the question. So as a founder, like what do you view as your role? Because a lot of time, when you're coding and stuff, it's a lot of alone time, right? It's a lot of just being by yourself, by a computer coding or talking with other coders or developers and things like that. So for you, like how do you make sure that the community then still develops a relationship with you throughout that?
Yeah, I'm going to be very active in spaces. My role as a founder, I'm a CTO. I also view myself as a CEO. We're everything, between the two of us, and we have a great team as well. In terms of good founders, I think that active founders are good founders. I'm involved in some projects now. I would never say any names because I respect everybody that I think could do much better if you heard from the founders more. I don't believe on just writing off your art or writing off promises. To tie back into the art piece, we didn't touch on that at all. We actually love our art. We spent a lot of time on it, as we said. We went through a ton of different artists that flopped and flopped and flopped. And funny enough, I happened to be, kind of venting about it one day with one of our junior devs. And he's like, well, Ravi is a phenomenal artist, which is, a mutual guy that we know. And I'm like, you're kidding. And he had stuff on OpenSea. And I'm like, oh my God, just like one of one collections. And he ended up being the perfect fit. And we hope you guys love our art as well. We're actually soon in the Discord going to be showing the whole collection and taking feedback. Recently, like she said, the community has been great because we were showing our collection the other day with a small select few. And one of the traits was a bandana. And one of the people were like, I don't like the bandana. I'm like, really? You don't like it?
They're like, that's super dope.
Yeah, we like it. And they're like, no, because if you happen to get that one, you know what I mean? It doesn't personify the Draco because you can't see the face. I'm like, that's a fucking good point.
And we were all we were talking after. I'm like, he really made a good point. Like, it's dope because we've seen all of them. But if I got that one, I'd be like, damn, like that's it.
Or if I'm not the holder of it and the only Draco I ever saw was the one with the bandana, would I recognize it if I saw it without the bandana? So it's all about branding. I'm like, oh fuck, he's right. You know what I mean? We got to get rid of the 86 the bandana. You know what I mean? So we want to listen to our community, and I think that not to go too far off the beaten path, I think that does actually tie into the answer, which is that's also what I look for in a founder. An open ear, like you said, humility, people that have no problem saying that they made a mistake. I think that's kind of Frank's catchphrase, right? Tried some shit, fucked up, trying to do shit, whatever the case may be, right? It's worked for them. I think that as long as your heart's in the right place, and you have the right team, you can't just be all heart with no skill, no talent. But I think if those things come together, then you've got a recipe for success as long as you're honest with your collection holders along the way.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that the feedback to me, I go back to is just so unbelievably important because you can go into it, with you almost become numb to it because you see it all the time, right? And so when you're hearing from somebody else, here are my thoughts on it, that's a fresh new perspective, right? So a lot of what I enjoy about the position that I'm in is I get to connect with all these founders, and I always say to them hey, I'm all ears. If you ever need to run an idea past me, run it by me. I'll give you my honest thoughts. I have the background now of I've been in the space for a year and a half. I've met so many founders that are in the space. I've had so many in-depth conversations with them. I have in-depth conversations with holders and things like that. So, hey, if you want to utilize me, fuck it, utilize me, right? And then I will, give you my honest to God perspective. And there's a lot of times where I've had conversations with people before and after a podcast or, a different day we go out to eat or whatever. And they'll say to me, hey, here's what we're doing. And I'm like, here's why I wouldn't do that. And I give my perspective, right? Or I'm like, hey, I love that idea. And here's why I love it, right?
That's phenomenal because I don't live too far from here.
Well, there we go. Yeah, I'm gonna get a knock at the door.
I'm taking you up on that.
Yeah. No, we do a lot of Web3 meetups. I was telling Amber, I was like, when you come out here, we got to have these scheduled where we'll do some of these big meetups because we do, a few weeks ago we had 40 people, 50 people that went to this brewery in Santa Monica, and it's great to connect with people and get to know them and kind of learn how did you get into Web3? What are you doing here? Are you here as a founder? Are you here as somebody who's just buying JPEGs? Are you here as an artist? Are you here as a creator? Like, why are you here? And there's so much that you can learn from that. And then just like getting to know people and having a fun conversation with them. Like, that's the shit that makes this space so dope, is that like Instagram, for example, like Amber's background, huge in Instagram. Same here with my background. And it's like, but you're not going to really like meet a random person who follows you on Instagram. Like a fan and be like, oh my God, we're going to have a great conversation. You're almost like, yeah, because you're a little worried that they're going to like kidnap you, kill you, and like wear your skin the next day, right? Yeah.
So we're all a little fucking weird too. I mean, like it's not normal to collect these JPEGs. So it's fun to find a like-minded crowd like that will spend, 50, 60 grand on a picture, you know what I mean? So it's nice to find like-minded people.
100%. Because you feel, because we're still so much in the infancy. Yeah. So it's the same thing of like when I first bought crypto, I didn't have anybody to talk to about it, right? Yeah. So it was like there were a lot of people who were buying it, but like you didn't have the ability to connect with anybody. So when you had the bad days, when you had the days where like crypto took a shit, you were like, well, fuck it, I'm all alone, right? This is a space where when you do have the bad days, if like the floor drops on your project or whatever, you have a lot of people who are able to help each other, support each other, right? Absolutely. And then when we have the things that are outside of our control, FTX crashing, things like that, you have a lot of people who can say, hey, how are you doing, right? Like I remember the Liberty Square, the founder of Liberty Square, he called me the day FTX crashed, and it was can't remember what time of day it was here, but he was in Portugal, and so he's like, hey, it's like 4:30 in the morning in Portugal, and he calls me, he's like, hey, I just want to check in, how are you doing? And I was like, you're calling me at 4:30 in the morning in Portugal to ask me how I'm doing? And I was like one, that shows what kind of friendship we've created, right? And then two, I was like that meant a lot because it was a hard day for me. It was something like, he's further along in his life. He's been very successful and things like that. Like he is, he's successful no matter what happens with NFTs and things like that. But for me, like I'm balls deep into this. Like I went full time into the podcast 2 months before FTX crashed. So I said to myself, like, am I fucked? Like, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I, and those were all the thoughts that were going through my head that day. So when he called me and he was like, I remember he said to me, he's like, how much money do you need to like live the lifestyle you live and save money and things like that? And I was like, X amount. Yeah. And he's like, if you ever struggle to make that, let me know and I'll make sure you're good. Wow. And I was like, damn, that's real shit, right?
And by the way, that's not like, I'm looking for the right use of vernacular. That's not natural in all communities. That's something that's unique to the Web3 community. It's so much of a brotherhood and sisterhood that it's just unlike anything I've ever been a part of. You know what I mean? At the same time, you don't want to be on the wrong side of the gang either. You know what I mean? And that's why I pray for you ruggers. I'm telling you, they will come. But it's everyone's just sweethearts of people, you know what I mean? And it's been an amazing experience that we found.
And I think that's why if you build like, cause you never want the mob to be after you, right? And we've seen it with people that like, even some good people that have been attacked at times. And like, so I always operate under the belief of like, if everybody knew everything that you were doing, would you have any issues with it? Right. And as long as your answer is no, full transparency, everybody could know everything about what I'm doing and everything like that, and I don't have anything to worry about, then keep doing what you're doing because you're doing good things, right? Yeah. And if you're like, this one part wouldn't be the greatest look, then like maybe fix that, you know? And
for sure.
And because I do think a lot of times, like especially at the beginning, people came into the space and it wasn't what it is now. And so I do think there are some people who might have done some shit back then that like maybe have learned from that, but I'm like, dude, come out and address it before somebody calls you out on the shit. Like, admit that you fucked up. Like, we're human. People fuck up, but don't let somebody else talk about your fuck up before you do. Like, own it. Own in life in general. When you make mistakes, own it. And don't wait until it's almost like when somebody gets caught cheating and then they're like, I made a mistake. I can't believe I did that. And it's like not saying that.
I told you after I found out.
It's like, no, when you know that you messed up, admit you messed up before somebody else finds out, you know? And don't cheat. Even though an apology before doesn't really fix anything, just don't cheat. But okay, so I want to know from you guys, like, what is a year from now, like, what would be a success story for you for 51 Draco? We'll start off with Amber, but a year from now, like, what do you want people to think of when they think of 51 Draco? And how will you view it as a success story?
I really feel like us being in other business, like traditional businesses, we've taken that kind of into what we're thinking of for, you know, the future and Web3. And I want people to think of us as that, you know, that technology for the future. Like, okay, these are the people, 51 Draco, they're going to make things innovative in the space, things that we need, you know? So for me in the year, that's my goal, for people to think of technology and innovation and to think of 51 Draco.
There we go.
And amazing PFPs.
Of course.
I have this weird neurosis where everything in my life is a scoreboard. It's just how I'm built, and she'll tell you we've known each other forever. So obviously we want to lead the space. You know what I mean? How realistic that is, you know, with the likes of the Yugas of the world and stuff like that. Obviously it's a tough hill to climb, but you know what do they say? You know, shoot for the
stars,
the moon,
land on the moon.
Yeah, or shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you're amongst the stars. I like yours actually better. You know, and that's the goal. You know, we want to, again, bring practical products, innovative products, but practical products. You know, the best way to onboard everyone on the Web3 is give them shit that they can use. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody's a degen. Not everybody wants another casino, you know, or what have you. And again, no shade. I love those casinos. But, you know, that's a part of it, you know, and just growing that community, giving back. You know, again, Draco stands for do right and create opportunity, and that's what we like to do. With our tech incubator we're building, we're welcoming in other developers, and we want to hear their ideas, and we want to fund those ideas, you know, with us building with them. But we want to continue to create opportunity once it's properly vetted. And because of my background in VC, you know, we feel we have a bit of an edge on the vetting side. We at least hope to, you know. So, you know, that's a big part of it. So to put it in short form, you know, we would want people to think of us as a blue chip, you know, something that, much like yourself, you could sleep like you snorted a railroad full of melatonin the night before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's a huge part of it. Yeah. So, and so then for you guys, so you guys ended up choosing Ethereum, right?
That's right. So I love Solana personally. I love ETH too, but it
was a hard in between. We went back and forth for a long time.
Yeah, it was a very tough decision to make, and obviously there's more members to our team that unfortunately aren't here right now. But really, what was the deciding factor? Because we were this undecided. We built on both, just so you know. Like I wrote the scripts for, you know, for the Solana blockchain, for the Ethereum blockchain. I was ready, you know, go either way because we're tiptoeing towards what will be the mint. You know what I mean? And we were still undecided. It was the FTX situation. And by the way, there's legacy to this. We go back a year building on this. This wasn't some idea that we had. You know, I mean, the art again was very hard to find. And as I've already told you, the products are done, so you can imagine how much time comes before this, how much legacy. That being said, the FTX thing was truly the final straw, because we looked at each other and we're like, we have a responsibility to our team. So even if we create the best product ever and have the best intentions, if the fucking underlying token goes to zero, you know, because we're essentially just we're an SPL token with a picture on it on Solana, just like an ERC token with a picture on it on Ethereum. You know what I mean? If nothing of nothing is nothing. So, you know, which is why I think some other, you know, large brands are making moves. Whether it was the right decision or not, I don't know. But we do feel the future is multi-chain, which is why our token is on Solana. Just so you know, the Draco coin is on Solana. The NFT is on Ethereum. So, and we do feel, you know, the future is multi-chain. So we want to, the biggest goal that Amber has, she always talks about, is she wants to cross-pollinate the Solana degens with the Ethereum crowd. You know what I mean? And because
I feel like they're very separate.
Yeah.
And they're very like, no, I'm on this side and I'm on this side.
Which is so ridiculous. You know, a good company is a good company regardless of where they're from or where they're built. You know what I mean?
I think it's because this space is very tribe-esque at times, right? And so you feel like at times, like, here's our tribe. We're in the Solana tribe. They're in the Ethereum tribe. Right. And a lot of times I say we like dick size the technology a lot. Sure. Like, we're like, well, our technology is better than your tech because your fucking gas fees are crazy. And they're like, well, your price of your Solana is going to zero, yada, yada, right? And I think a lot of times, like, the way I view it as is Ethereum has been around for a longer time than Solana has. So realistically, I think they've troubleshooted a lot of the problems that Solana is still figuring out, right? So there's a huge amount of upside in Solana, but there's also a larger downside.
There's stability in ETH.
Yeah, with ETH there's more stability. Yeah. So it's more or less like, what are you looking to do? That's why I think you see a little bit more degeneracy sometimes on Solana, because they also realize there is this gigantic upside, but there is still that downside, right? So, you know, it is like, you'll see Solana. When Solana rips, right?
Yeah.
And then when Solana falls, right? So it's interesting, but I think I truly do believe the future of all of this is very multi-chain. I think
Absolutely.
like my goal is to get to, because I go back to simplicity. If I have to know what tech I'm using, it's not simple yet.
Right.
So I look forward to the time where I don't fucking know which blockchain I'm on. And like the other day,
and agnostic wallets, you know what I mean? Which Phantom is tiptoeing towards right now. Like the fact that we need MetaMask for this. When I explain this to the everyman or even somebody that's, you know, friends of mine in Silicon and stuff, they're like, dude, it's just so it's there's so many steps to get to the end goal, you know.
We have to make things easier. And like even so the other day when I was doing I can't remember if I mentioned this on the podcast with you. I did a charity raise the other day to go buy meals for homeless in LA. And so I had created a wallet, gave people Solana wallet, Ethereum address, you know, they could donate whatever. Well, then, you know, I had some people who sent over Ethereum, and at one point I took the Ethereum and I sent it over to my Coinbase account, right? Because, you know, I had to actually go and buy these things that were donating and all of that, right?
Course, yeah.
Well, so then I have the USDC that some people had sent over that was in Ethereum, and I couldn't then send that to my Coinbase because I didn't have the Ethereum for the gas fee, right?
Yeah.
But I had still some Solana in there, and I was like, damn it, why isn't there the ability to like pay the gas fee in Solana?
Yeah.
Like, why can't that happen? They could do a conversion right then and there, like that, and that's the stuff where I'm like, okay, so currently I have like $50 in USDC and Solana or in Ethereum just chilling on that wallet that's going to be there for the foreseeable future until I send some ETH over there to remove it. But like the reality of it is that currently is too many steps, right?
Absolutely.
So we have to get to the point where all of this is more simple. And so I always laugh when we have these conversations about like, well, the tech on this is better than this or better than that. I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, we need to get to the point as quickly as possible where the tech barely matters.
Right.
You don't even know what you're utilizing. It's just making your life easier.
Right.
Everything at our core has to make our life easier, because I still, even somebody who's, there are people that will watch a podcast like mine and go, well, Mark doesn't focus enough on the tech, right? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm not a tech guy. I don't understand all of that. But and the reason why I try to make it simple so that people can digest it is because, dude, if you ask 95% of people in America, how do you turn on two-factor authentication on your Gmail?
Right.
They're like, what does that do?
Yeah.
What is two-factor authentication?
They're not ready for all that.
Yeah. Like, so then you start throwing out, you know, seed phrases and fucking MetaMask and Phantom and Ledger.
They're already lost.
Yeah. They're so lost that, like, you know, and that's where we're very much in the infancy. So I look forward to where, you know, I'm sure at some point Apple will have a crypto wallet native to the iPhone, like automatically downloaded. That would be, I'd love to see Phantom have an integration with Apple.
It's happening.
Yeah, like that would be amazing. And so if every iPhone came with Phantom already on it, lifesaver, right?
Yeah.
It loads into your Apple wallet. Crispy.
Yeah.
So I look forward to those moments, but we're still a ways away from that, right? So, you know, and that's where I think what you guys are building is cool, because I like when I see somebody building actual tech elements of it, because I'm like, then if we can make the tech in crypto, once again, making somebody's life better, it's going to be the easiest way to onboard other people, because you're going to be able to say, hey, here's this tech. This is what makes your life easier, right? So, and that's at the end of the day, you know, my core philosophy on all of this. I was going to ask you, do you see 51 Draco going multi-chain? But you guys already answered that question. Yeah. So I'll leave it at this. I want to know from you guys, if somebody is going to mint 51 Draco, or if somebody's going to buy on secondary after you guys mint, I want you guys to each speak to your holders and speak to your prospective holders down the road. Why should somebody be bullish on the future of 51 Draco? Let's start with you, Dan, and then we'll go to Amber.
Okay, so we will never, ever, ever quit, and we will never, ever. We have way too much pride, and I'm way too neurotic to take an L or allow anybody that invested in or had full faith and confidence in me or our team that we put together, us, I should say, to allow you to take an L. We will be up when you're sleeping, we'll be up when you're awake, and we'll be up in any in between times that happen. If you ever feel that there's something that strikes you as ambiguous, or something that, you know, you want a question answered on, please reach out to us. We want to have 24/7 communication open. If you don't like a trait in the collection, you know, reach out to us on it. If you don't like the direction we're going with some technology, by the way, the new technology that we roll out beyond the initial products like the Draco Pago, it's going to be a collection decision. You know what I mean? So it's all going to be ran through the Discord, and there is, you know, this is a team effort, obviously. I think that's a term that's overused in this space, but we truly want to to have that. And I can't wait for you guys to mint it. I think you'll love the art. I think you'll love the community more, and you'll absolutely adore the technology. And I can't thank you enough for watching this podcast if you're still watching. Here's the better version of myself, Amber.
There we go. Amber, what's your answer to that?
So I definitely agree. You know, this is something that me, Dan, our team, we've committed to. And this is not something that we're going to give up on no matter what. You know, like he said, we're up chatting, we're up working 24/7. Like, this is literally like our baby. And we're gonna give you the opportunity to be a part of the community and have a voice. And that's something I think in this space that a lot of people haven't had the chance to have a voice. And, you know, this is the future. And I can't wait for you guys to see the art, because I'm very excited about it. We've gone through months and months of like working on this, but you know, sky's the limit, and the future is huge, and I'm excited to have you guys here and see it and mint, and thank you for watching this.
There we go. There we go. So to wrap up, can you guys drop your socials? Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm at Daniel Draco 51 on Twitter. And this is Crypto with Amber, also on Twitter.
And Instagram is Amber Quinn Official, YouTube Amber Quinn Official. So make sure you check us out.
And what's the 51 Draco Twitter account?
51 Draco NFT.
There we go. There we go.
Simple enough.
So, yeah, love it.
And the website's 51draco.com. Please come and check out the site. There's our blueprints on there. There's our plans. There's a link to the Discord, of course. Come join the conversation. Soon we're going to be. When will this actually air? How long?
Pretty quickly. Yeah.
Okay. So more than likely we will not have done it yet, which is great news for you. Please come and join the Discord, because we're going to be going through the entirety of the collection. You can stay for some of it, all of it. We're going to break it up in chunks. So this is 10,000. But we want your feedback. I think you're going to love the 1/1s. We have a lot of different artists from different collections that have done 1/1s, including our core artists. The art on the 1/1s are like pop culture references and stuff like that. It's very cool. So we'd love to have you a part of that process, and all feedback is good feedback. So we're excited to have you there.
Facts. Well, hey guys, this has been a good time. I'm looking forward to the future of 51 Draco. I need merch, because I just love the name 51 Draco. Like I've said that like 1,000 times over. Like, I just love the name. So
wonderful.
It rolls off the tongue well. It's kind of a hit 51. Name and stuff like that. So I love it. Looking forward to it. I appreciate you guys coming out here and the excitement that you guys have for your project and all of that. So for everybody else, appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll chat with you guys soon.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. See you guys.
Bye.
Thanks.